Archaeologists have discovered 13 ancient Egyptian coffins that have remained untouched since antiquity. Incredibly, the coffins are all sealed, so they are undisturbed by looters and should still contain all the original burial items and valuables that were placed there when they were interred around 2,500 years ago. But whilst this recent find at Saqqara, south of Cairo, may be the most spectacular, it's not the only discovery of mummy caches made in Egypt over the last couple of years. The Saqqara discoveries. In September 2020, Egypt's Antiquities Ministry announced that archaeologists had discovered an unusual cache of at least 13 wooden coffins dating back to 2,500 years ago in the desert necropolis of Saqqara in Egypt. When found, the coffins were stacked on top of each other in two piles inside a burial shaft 36 feet underground. The wooden sarcophagi, richly decorated in shades of red, green, white and black, are particularly remarkable due to their colourful, well-preserved paintings and inscriptions. But most of all is the fact that they are still sealed, a rarity in ancient Egyptian tomb finds. According to Egypt's Minister of Tourism and Antiquities, Khalid Al-Anani, there are probably even more coffins in the shaft waiting to be found. The identity of those buried within the coffins remains a mystery, as archaeologists have yet to look inside the sealed coffins, which haven't been opened since the bodies were interred within 2,500 years ago. This is not the first important find of this type at Saqqara this year. In April 2020, the ministry announced discovery of 5 limestone sarcophagi and 4 wooden coffins containing human mummies. These finds were made inside a burial shaft going down almost 30 feet below ground. Archaeologists also excavated an incredible array of small artifacts from the shaft, including 365 faience Ushapti figurines, some inscribed with hieroglyphics. Ushapti are small statuettes made of wood, stone or faience that are often found in large numbers in ancient Egyptian tombs. The figures vary in height from approximately 4 to 20 inches and often hold hoes in their arms. Their function was to act as a magical substitute for the deceased owner when the gods requested him to undertake lowly tasks in the afterlife. The word Ushapti is usually translated as answerer. Inside the burial shaft, excavators also found a small wooden obelisk about 40 centimeters high, painted with scenes featuring the Egyptian goddess Isis, who is associated with rebirth, and Nephthys, who is associated with death, and the god Horus, one of the most celebrated ancient Egyptian deities. Given that the coffins are made of wood and were buried in a dry location, preservation of the bodies inside is expected to be good. The name and identities of the people buried in the coffins are of course unknown, but as excavations continue at the site, this information is expected to be discovered soon. The possible grave goods interred with the bodies may not only tell us who was buried, but how important they were. The necropolis of Saqqara. Saqqara is a vast ancient burial ground located around 18.5 miles south of modern-day Cairo, and covers an area of around 4.3 by 1 miles. Saqqara was the principal cemetery of Egypt's political capital of Memphis and is also known for its Old Kingdom pyramids. The oldest of these, and the oldest pyramid in the world, is the distinctive step pyramid of Djoser, which rises up majestically from the desert plateau. The step pyramid, which dates back to around 2700 BC, is believed to have been created by one man, the polymath Imhotep, considered to be the first engineer, architect, astronomer and physician in history known by name. Apart from the tombs of pharaohs and the cemeteries that accompany them, Saqqara contains numerous temples and places of worship. Chronologically, New Kingdom graves in Saqqara can be arranged in the pre-Amarna period, the Amarna period and the post-Amarna period. Saqqara was burial place of the first pharaohs, those of the first 3 dynasties. The earliest remains discovered at Saqqara is the early dynastic cemetery at the northernmost end of the site, where large mastabas, flat-roofed regular structures with inward-sloping sides constructed of mud bricks, have been found that date to the very beginning of Egyptian history. However, these tombs were not of the first dynasty kings, but of high-ranking officials over the period. Over time, these mastabas became more and more complex. While kings of the 4th dynasty selected the Giza Plateau for their funerary monuments, kings of the 5th and 6th dynasties looked south to Saqqara, where their pyramids and most of their high officials' tombs are located. The significance of the necropolis region changed as the capital of Egypt moved. In the reign of Amenhotep I, the New Kingdom royal necropolis is now known as the Valley of the Kings and the Valley of the Queens. The majority of the high officials and noblemen of this period were also buried in the cliffs of western Thebes. In the New Kingdom, circa 1539 to 1075 BC, Memphis became an important administrative and military center, and a number of tombs dating to that period have been discovered, including a richly decorated tomb of the general, later king, Horemheb, rediscovered in 1975. During that period and later, the sacred Apis bulls were buried at Saqqara in large subterranean galleries, the most famous of which was the Serapeum. The necropolis south of the Yunus Causeway contains New Kingdom tombs of officials covering all New Kingdom periods. Standalone, temple-like tombs were constructed here in a line running south to north. The tomb's axis was always east-west, with their pylon gate entrances to the east and their sanctuaries of Holy of Holies facing west. Unas was the last king of the 5th dynasty and the first to inscribe on the walls of his pyramid chambers the pyramid texts, the oldest religious writings in the world, which were discovered and designed to protect the dead king and to ensure him life and subsistence in the afterlife. It wasn't only humans who were interred at Saqqara. In November 2019, it was announced that a cache of 75 wooden and bronze statues and 5 lion cub mummies decorated with hieroglyphics had been uncovered at the site. Mummified cats, cobras and crocodiles and scarabs were also among the well-preserved mummies and other objects discovered. Antiquities minister Khaled El-Enani described the incredible discovery as a whole museum by itself. He also said that initial tests of the mummies revealed that 5 of them were lion cubs. Other artifacts discovered in the excavations include statues of an Apis bull, a mongoose, an ibis, a falcon, and the ancient Egyptian god Anubis in animal form. The artifacts date to the 26th dynasty, which dates back to the 7th century BCE, Anani said. This treasure discovered also includes a collection of 73 bronze statuettes depicting the god Osiris, 6 wooden statues of Tarsoka, and 11 of Sekhmet, the warrior goddess of healing. The Theban cache. Recent discoveries of mummy caches have not been confined to Saqqara, however. In October 2019, the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities announced that archaeologists had unearthed 30 intact ancient coffins near the Egyptian city of Luxor, describing the incredible find as one of the largest and most important in recent years. The coffins were discovered in El Asasif, a necropolis on the west bank of the Nile, which is now Luxor, but which in ancient times was part of the ancient capital of Thebes. The discovery was made by an Egyptian mission led by Dr. Mustafa Waziri, Secretary General of the Supreme Council of Antiquities. Incredibly, it was the first cache of coffins to be uncovered in Luxor since the end of the 19th century. Other well-known royal mummy finds in the Theban necropolis are those at El Dir el-Bahari, discovered in 1881, and another in the tomb of Amenhotep II, found in 1898, as well as a cache of priest mummies found at Bab al-Gassus on Luxor's west bank in 1891. The newly uncovered sarcophagi were found grouped on 2 levels on top of each other. The first level contained 18 coffins, while the second contained 12. Some of the coffins were decorated with scenes from the Book of the Dead and the names and titles of the deceased. Others were only partly painted, whilst a third group were plain. 23 of the sarcophagi belonged to men, 5 to women, and 3 to children. Dr. Wazari believes the coffins were grouped together and hidden by an ancient Egyptian priest towards the end of the 22nd dynasty, perhaps to protect the bodies of his ancestors during an age of unrest and political uncertainty, which was usually when tomb raiders were most active. So far, restorers have opened 2 of the coffins from the cache, revealing 2 well-preserved mummies of a man and a woman wrapped in linen. The coffins will be carefully restored in order to be transported to the Grand Egyptian Museum to be put on display in a special hall.